Hey there, Skeleton Key here. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I hope to have some good chatting and sprinting going today. Um, so anyway, a little bit about what's gonna happen today. I'm way behind on book reports. So my weekly book reports. Yeah, so last time I did this, I was planning to catch up and do 2 weeks at once, week 7 and 8. Got through week 7 and my voice gave out. And my voice has been just giving out a lot lately. And yeah, so yeah, trying to figure out if there are actual physical reasons for that or if it's just talking too much or yeah, I don't know. But or if there's some sort of underlying problem there. But anyway, I remembered that for the superb owl sprints, I would chat for a while about something, and then I would, when it's like, okay, my voice is starting to go, um, then it's like, let's sprint for a while. So I'll just set a timer. Oh, yeah, I've got to find Pomodoro Kitty again. But and I meant to find there was another one that some other booktubers have been using, another timer, but I haven't looked into that one yet. So I think it requires a subscription or something. So Pomodoro Kitty it is, but I got to get that set up. Yeah, my life has just been kind of all over the place, trying to get a bunch of medical stuff done, and that's part of why I am so far behind on things. It's yeah, I'm struggling a bit physically, and yeah, so there are days that it's just like, okay, I just need to sleep all day today, and or maybe just listen to an audiobook. And so yeah, you will see a lot of audiobooks on on my reading lists. Um, but I'm hoping to get through 4 weeks, weeks 8, 9, 10, and 11 of 2025 today, eventually, with some sprinting. And yeah, so if you want to read with me and, just kind of hang out and we can read together or work on something, even if it's, something relaxing and not exactly work, I'm all for that. So read, knit, whatever you like. And also, at first I did, and of course, to hop into the chat here. And if you are watching on replay, of course, there's the comment section. Would like to hang out with you there as well. And yeah, I am behind. I haven't even done anything with the last live stream I did, but it's like, okay, I've got to get something going. So I'm doing this, and hopefully soon I'll be able to kind of go back and I think there's at least one comment I haven't replied to, and also update the description and add some links, relevant links and things into the description. And yeah, I need to do that on several others as well. But yeah, so whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on replay, I would love to have a conversation with you. And at first I did want to say, and just for anyone who is aware of the tornadoes and the storms, my family, as far as I can tell, is safe. Everyone I've heard from is safe. Some wind damage, even the straight winds where they didn't have tornadoes, the straight winds were pretty damaging. I do have friends in southern Missouri who did have a lot of damage. One friend from school, like half her house is gone. So, you know, thoughts, prayers, good vibes, whatever you can send to well, not just the Missouri Ozarks, but the Arkansas Ozarks got hit pretty bad. And then I think it just kind of went up through St. Louis, and I heard like Mississippi and Alabama. So yeah, it was bad. And yeah, and then there was a dust storm in Kansas, and it's like, oh, on I-70. Yeah, there was this big dust storm, and there was this huge pile up and killed a bunch of people. And I'm just like, oh, that's where I usually stop for the night. But yeah, it's crazy. Climate change is a thing, y'all. So yeah, so anybody been reading any good climate fiction? I've been reading a climate fiction book, but I'm not crazy about it. But yeah, but anyway, I am wearing my Drury Panthers shirt, so you know, Missouri Ozarks, and I lived there for a very long time, and I'll get to that in a little bit. A book related thing on that, and also just, you know, this is immediate. The storms are immediately in my mind, but of course, there's all sorts of stuff going on around the world that, yeah. It's dire, and anything any of us can do, we need to do. I'm actually thinking of going to a Bernie rally on Friday. It's going to wreck me, but I feel like I need to go. So we'll see. But anyway, I was going to talk about the Missouri Ozarks. And so I started this on audiobook a while back. This is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. As far as I can tell, has never actually been to Missouri. And I think he's even stated that in an interview. And yeah, so, but I was listening to the audiobook, and I know everyone loves this. They think it's absolutely wonderful and gorgeously written. And I mean, I think the writing style is just not for me, and that's fine. Because obviously a lot of people love the writing style, but I was listening to the audiobook, and I think I've already ranted about the place names, but I was listening to, and he was talking about the Missouri River banks, and I'm like, or bluffs. And I'm like, did he just say he could see the Missouri River from his town in southern what? So I've got this, and I'm going to try to read at least the first part and see if I heard what I thought I heard, because I tried playing it back, and I was like, yeah, that's what it sounds like. But I'm like, it's hard to get a lot of context when on an audiobook, when you're kind of going back and forth to try to re-listen to something specific. So, but yeah, I think I have already ranted about Montclair as a place name, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And in 1975, he's also got this woman who is, you know, part of the working poor, and she keeps going to job interviews in places like Branson and St. Louis, you know, just, hop in the car and go to a job interview. And I'm like, that's a long ways. In 1975, during a gas crisis, no, I don't think that's realistic. I was just visiting, but I was in the Missouri Ozarks in 1975, and the vibe I'm getting from him in this book is just, it's not 1975 Missouri Ozarks. So, yeah, I don't know what research he did, but it feels like it was very superficial. And I would be surprised if he even looked at a map, because it's just the stuff that, when I was listening to the audiobook, I was like, what? No, no, that's not right. And like I said, I lived in the Missouri Ozarks. I went to Drury for school, and I did grad school at Missouri State. And granted, that's Southwest Missouri, but Southern Missouri, I have a lot of friends who are from other parts of the Missouri Ozarks, and I've, driven through there. And my brother was in Rolla for a long time, and so I would go there. And yeah, Rolla got hit really hard. And a friend of mine has some like minor damage, but she lives like 2 blocks from the interstate, and where it got hit really bad. And she was sharing pictures that she took of the damage there, and it's just absolutely crazy. And I don't know. I will probably DNF this, but not before I get a really good handle on just how wrong I think this book is. I mean, if you love it, you'll love it. And it's not your fault that you don't recognize this stuff as being wrong. It's just, if you see it, and you can't unsee it or unread it and understand how wrong it is. But okay, so let's see. Before we get to the weekly book reports, I also wanted to talk a little bit about why is my mind going blank? It's the BookTube prize, and that is so I am it's Robert Scheer does it, and it's the BookTube prize channel here on YouTube, and he does an amazing job of putting together this year-long, well, almost year-long winnowing of the previous year's fiction and nonfiction books to determine, the top 3 of each category, the fiction and nonfiction. And I am judging the nonfiction category. I forget which group it is. I'm wanting to say D. It might be C. I don't know. But anyway, I'll show you the books that I'm reading for this. So the first one here is Everyone Who Is Gone Is Here. And I have not started this yet. This is a chunker. And this is The United States, Central America, and the Making of a Crisis by Jonathan Blitzer. And I am trying to go in cold, so I don't really know anything about that yet. I am listening to The Showman by Simon Schuster, and this is about Zelensky, and apparently, according to the narrator, it's pronounced Zelensky with sort of a Y sound almost. But inside the invasion that shook the world and made a leader of Volodymyr Zelensky. And Simon Schuster is a Time magazine correspondent, and I'm listening to this, and I can't really comment on any of these because I'm still judging, and so I won't be able to post my thoughts on these books until April. So, and then next up is When the Clock Broke. And this is Conmen, Conspiracists, and How America Cracked Up in the Early 1990s by John Gans. So, and like I said, I'm going in cold on those. Let's see. And then this is Erica House. I'm not sure how this is pronounced. Hausar. The Age of Deer. and Trouble and Kinship with Our Wild Neighbors. So something a little different. And let's see, what we got here. Cue the Sun, which I recognize that quote. The Invention of Reality TV by Emily Nussbaum, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. So that'll be interesting. And so that's 5. There's a 6th book. So I will now go to presenting my screen. And so this is the 6th book. Let's see, does that make it? Maybe a little bit better. I don't know. But the 6th book is The Freaks Came Out to Write, The Definitive History of the Village Voice, the Radical Paper That Changed American Culture, by Tricia Romano. So, so that is the last book that I will be reading for the BookTube Prize judging round 1, the octafinals round. So they cut it in half every round. So I'll have to decide which 3 that I want to send through to the next round, and the votes will be aggregated. And then over on the BookTube Prize channel, Robert will announce all the next groupings. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be judging next round or not. I haven't actually asked to judge, RSVP'd to judge next round. Still trying to decide. I've got, I think, a couple days to decide maybe. And then, of course, since I did judge this round, I don't have priority for judging the next round. So I just might not get picked anyway. So we'll see. But next month, early April, I will be able to do a commentary on these books. Okay. Yeah, I can move those aside. And then, let's see. I also wanted to talk about a couple other things that I wanted to get to last time but didn't. And one of those is it's Weekend of the Wasted Weekend, which is sort of just a weekend long, at the halfway point, little mini readathon to read trashy books. And that's run by Ollie of Criminale, and he does Garbogust. And so it's, the pulpy books, the trashy books. And I'll stop sharing my screen for a little bit so I can show you these. I was going to read this. This is Cry Tough. And, it's got that pulp cover, bad boy, bad girl kind of thing. And this is by Irvin Schulman. Yeah, sorry, the name, even if you could read it, it's, I don't know, somebody scratched out some of the letters. I don't know why, but, and this, I think this is one that I inherited from my neighbor, Johnny, who passed away some years ago. But anyway, this is, and I inherited a bunch of trashy books from Johnny. And yeah, it's this, I ended up DNFing this because, one, it's second in a trilogy. And I mean, Irving Schulman, is he really a trashy writer? I mean, he's done some really well-known stuff, especially screenwriting and producing. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it looks trashy. And it's, it's as much a case history of juvenile delinquency and organized crime as it is a novel. But apparently this is part of a trilogy, and I was just not feeling it with the characters because it's one where you pretty much need to start from the first book in the trilogy, which I believe is the Amboy Dukes. It's mentioned here. But I put it down and I thought, okay, well, I have other trashy books because I think a lot of the books that I inherited from Johnny are in storage. So, and some of them my ex kept. So, but this is Alfred Hitchcock's A Baker's Dozen of Suspense Stories. And these are, back in the, what was it, 60s, 70s. I picked this up at a yard sale, I think, when I was a kid, because I loved reading all these trashy horror and mystery novels and short story collections. And this is a short story collection. There are 13 stories in here. And there's supposedly, the introduction is supposedly written by Alfred Hitchcock. Probably not. But anyway, because he had the Alfred Hitchcock's TV show and all the things like that. And I read the introduction, and I'm sure I have read stories out of this. I mean, I probably got it because there's an Agatha Christie story in here. Which one? Accident. And that's probably why I picked it up, because I was really into Agatha Christie at the time. And so I'm sure I've read that one. And I've probably read others in here in the past, but I just ran out of time. And, it's like, I put it down. I read the introduction, I put it down. So I didn't do that. And I thought, oh, wait, I still haven't finished reading Carrie. That's trashy. It's from the 70s. And this is even a movie tie-in edition. And I think this might have come from Johnny's stash. I don't know. But I didn't even get to it. So I was an epic fail, but I wanted to show you my trashy books that I almost read. And let's see. Is it time to talk about... Well, sort of bridging week 7 and 8, I started to talk about the Chaos Weekend, and I'm going to go back to presenting my screen. And so this was part of the Get a Clue Readathon. And yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so the Get a Clue Readathon, and I will eventually get links put down below, even though it's over and everything. But this was for February, the entire month of February. But there was one, and it was really complex, and I wish I could have taken the time to be a senior detective, but I played a junior detective, so I was just reading for page count. But there was one weekend, a 48-hour period, that was designated Chaos Weekend. And you could read any, standalone short story or, publish short story, individually published short story, or, any, children's chapter book, even if it was under 100 pages, it would count for 100 pages. So I did get four chaos reads in, and the first one was Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft, and I listened to this over on Audible, and I forget, it's one page, so less than an hour. I think it was something like 20 minutes. It was kind of interesting. As far as it was one of his earlier short stories, and it's basically this guy, out on the ocean and he experiences some really creepy stuff. And I'm just kind of leave it there and just say that it's first in the cosmic horror. I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole as to the meaning of the title, and yeah, there's some kind of that I thought was more interesting than the story itself. Um, but yeah, this is here it calls it Lovecraft's earliest tale of unspeakable horror from outside our universe, even though it's actually an undersea creature. So, or god, or a old god or something. I think some people refer to it as a fish god, but I think that was like an error in translation at some point. Now I've forgotten what I looked up, but um, that there's some mixed up etymology involved there. Um, but so that was a real short one, and then let's see. Next was Dial F for Frankenstein by Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah, they had a whole bunch of Arthur C. Clarke short stories, and I think some of these were like split out from collections, probably all of them. Or actually, this one I think was first. Hmm, was it first published in? I think it was first published in a magazine. Um, but this was um, sort of a precursor to Terminator, this Terminator story, um, which was also, I believe, I don't know if it took inspiration from this story specifically, but I heard that it took inspiration from Philip K. Dick's story. I think second variation, second variant, something like that. Second variety. And I remember reading Second Variety, not knowing that, and thinking, this is a little bit like the Terminator. And yeah, but this, it's like, ooh, Skynet. Um, it's foretold an ever more interconnected telephone network that spontaneously acts like a newborn baby and leads to global chaos as it takes over financial, transportation, and military systems. And the father of the internet, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, credits Clarke's short story Dial F for Frankenstein as an inspiration. So I thought that was really interesting, and it's the story is pretty neat. So yeah, I was really kind of disappointed when I next chose to read the defenestration of Ermintrude Inch, which I gave 1 star because it's just misogynistic crap. It's basically about this guy who this guy tells this story about this guy whose wife just talks too much, so he pushes her out of a window, basically. That's a very short summary of it, but yeah. And so I'm just like, fuck you. I really, yeah. At first I was going to give it 2 stars for, and it's like, well, there's some interesting, no. Nope. And then the fourth one was Strange Candy by Robert McCammon, and apparently he posted this as a freebie on his website. So this was self-published at first, but then of course somebody said, hey, let's do an audiobook. And it's a Halloween story. It's unexpectedly moving. It's whatever you think it's probably going to be, it's probably not going to be. um, it really surprised me, and I've never read any Robert McCammon, so I'm pretty cool with this being my first Robert McCammon experience. So I'm looking forward to there. There have been a few other Robert McCammon books and stories that have piqued my interest. So yeah, I look forward to reading those now. And and hope this wasn't just a one-off. Okay, so now book report for week 8. Let's see. Okay, we'll start that one off with Little Free Library. Yeah, so last time I talked about Catfishing on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer, and then I saw that this Little Free Library story that she had written was still up on the reactormag.com site. It's reactormag.com. If you just Google Little Free Library, Reactor Mag, Naomi Kritzer, yeah, it'll pop up. And it's just a short little 12-page story. And, I don't want to spoil anything, but this woman puts up a little free library in her yard, and mysterious things happen. And it's really interesting. I really like this a lot. And yeah, I think, I want to read some more Naomi Kritzer. So chaos at catnet. Chaos at Catnet on Catnet. Anyway, that one is definitely on my TBR for upcoming months. And then Bryony and Roses by T. Kingfisher. Yeah, I have been on a T. Kingfisher Ursula Vernon jag lately. I read this for Folklore February. Yeah, still talking about February. And this is a retelling of sorts, sort of, kind of The Beauty and the Beast. I would say that this is the most faithful to the original de Villeneuve story. I have not yet read the de Beaumont story. I do have that on my TBR. Don't ask me why. I just got caught up in, it's like, oh, I must read all of the Beauty and the Beast things, even though the reason I was doing that was because I found the Beauty and the Beast to be kind of the retellings or reimaginings that I was reading, they seemed really awful as far as how they viewed relationships and women's agency in relationships and things like that. And I'm like, Stockholm Syndrome, anybody? And so I was like, I have to go back and read the original. So I read the de Villeneuve story. And it was really messed up, but I think its point was to be messed up. I think she was actually making a point about the marriage market and things like that in a and of course that was 1740s France, or 1730s, I guess, is probably when she wrote it. And yeah, I think she was trying to make some points there about how messed up it is, and just kind of put it into a fairy tale format, novella. It is a full novella. It's not just a little short story, short fairy tale thing. And Bryony and Roses is also it's 224 pages, so a shortish novel. And if you consider a novella under 250 pages, it qualifies as a novella. So it's a pretty quick read. And I do feel that it was very faithful to many elements of the original story. However, it took some of the elements and really twisted them around. And I was really pleased, and I don't think this is really a spoiler. I was really pleased that it is very clear very quickly that the Beast is as much a prisoner as Bryony is. Bryony is the female lead. in the story instead of beauty. I also found it very amusing that apparently T. Kingfisher, Ursula Vernon, despises roses. And that comes through very, very clearly. And I don't want to spoil any of the fun switcheroos and changes and just the humor. That I don't want to spoil any of that for you, but I do highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. I think this could very well be the absolute best Beauty and the Beast retelling out there. And then let's see. Oh, I guess I could put the banner up. The Witches of Silver Lake, Volume 1. This is by Simon Curtis and Stephanie Son. Did the illustrations. And it's Volume 1, and I don't think there's a Volume 2 yet. So this came out May of 2024. So maybe May of this year, we'll be seeing a Volume 2. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess, it does collect issues, and I haven't seen issues either. So maybe they just stopped, but that's too bad because it ends on kind of a cliffhanger, as a lot of this kind of thing does. But basically, new kid at school, and there's all sorts of, his dad died, and so his mom is the principal at the school, and then he makes friends who invite him to join a coven. There's a lot of diverse rep, queer rep, disability rep, all sorts of things, and I think this one had disability rep. I'd have to look at it again to see. I could be getting it mixed up with another thing I read, but it's pretty gruesome, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And I mean, the thing is, being Volume 1, there's a lot of setup and just a lot of weird, unexplained stuff that doesn't get explained at the end. So I don't know. Don't know what to do about that. It's like I kind of hope that it will continue. It's not really. It's a little more gruesome than I tend to like, and it is YA. So that's another thing that I'm not like I have to read Volume 2. Where's Volume 2? But I would be interested in reading Volume 2, just to see what the heck happens. And then next is Black Cake by Charmaine by Charmaine Wilkerson. And this was a Goodreads Choice Award nominee for both historical fiction and debut novel. And okay, so this one takes a while to get into. It's pretty slow going at the start. I forget how old they were, late 20s, early 30s. These youngish people are called in for a reading of the will. Their mother has died, and their father had already died a while back. And their mother has died now, and so the reading of the will, and siblings, Byron and Benny. And so one of the things she leaves them is the recipe for black cake, which is a family recipe. And then, says you'll need to make this and share it. It's an actual cake, not just the recipe, because they already know the recipe. But anyway, it's an actual black cake. in the freezer and is like, okay, you'll know when to share this. There will be a time when you will need to share this and you'll know when it's right. And they're like, what? And then she drops another bombshell. So, and I'm not going to tell you what that is. The thing is, it's interweaving all these, it's, flashbacks and looks at other pieces of the story. And at first, you'll be just, why are we talking about this? Why is this part of the story? I don't know. It's very confusing at first. Just stick with it. Eventually, I got really invested in this story, and I gave it 5 stars. That's probably more like a 4.5 rounded up because there were a few things that I think could have been done differently to make it a smoother read, I guess. I don't know, but it's really like I said, I got really invested in the characters and, what's gonna happen when, they share the cake um and there is okay, so there is a murder mystery element to it, but don't go in thinking this is a murder mystery. And I think that might be part of my problem is that it was in some of the advertising or the promotion for it, it was kind of hinted that it was a murder mystery. And I'm like, cool. But it's not. And there is a murder. It is mysterious. You do find out eventually what happened, but it is not a murder mystery. Let me just put that out there. It's not a murder mystery, even though there is a mysterious murder that gets solved. I think it gets. Does everyone understand that it gets solved? It might be one of those things where only the reader knows. No, everyone knows, I think. But yeah, now I can't remember if it's one that only the reader is privy to the solution. And that might be, if that's the case, yeah. I'm not super fond of that, but I do highly recommend it. And now this was my final read for Filmtastic February, which I talked about a little bit last time, because I read, that you read a book a week for the first 3 weeks. And so this was my third book for the third week of Filmtastic February, because it was a movie tie-in. Or a TV show tie-in. It was a media tie-in. So this is on Hulu, and as you can see from this cover, and yeah, a lot of people don't like, and I'm presuming that this is actually a representative of the show, and I haven't really heard any buzz about the show one way or another. So, um, yeah, I don't have Hulu, so I probably won't watch it anytime soon. But I think it would be interesting to see what they did with it. And so, for Filmtastic February for week 4, I'll just go ahead and tell you now. It was to read a film industry or fan magazine, and I went to Barnes and Noble because I used to be able to find film industry magazines there, and they didn't have anything. So I ended up just like reading a few articles on the Hollywood Reporter website. Eh, that's I don't know if that counts or not, but yeah. So, but I did read my three books for Filmtastic February, and I just enjoy that one. And then let's see. Oh, The City and the City, and I read this for Book Snobs, and this was a reread for me. What can I say without spoiling this? Okay, it is a murder mystery. The murder mystery is not really, I mean, it is what the book's about, but at the same time, it's about the cities, these twin cities that occupy the same place, the same physical place, um, the same geography, but they're separate, they're divided. And the penalties for acknowledging even that the other city exists, or its people, or its architecture even, are pretty dang draconian. Um, and I thought I had the paperback, but no, I had already given the paperback away. So I got the audiobook and the ebook, and I mostly listened to it this time. And so it was nice to get the pronunciations of stuff. But you've got this inspector in one city basically having to cooperate with the law enforcement and the university people at the others in the other city to solve this crime. What I really and this was my pick for Book Snobs, and I picked it because I felt like it was very appropriate for our time and what's going on in the world, and specifically in North America, um, United States, where to get through life, I mean, we're sort of in the middle of a civil war of sorts. It's not a typical kind of civil war, but red and blue are things. It's like um, people are very serious about their politics, and politics are serious. And I don't like politics, but they're here and you got to deal with them. And if you aren't dealing with them, wow, you either have insane amounts of privilege, or you're just really oblivious and it's going to bite you in the ass. Um, but yeah, you have to pay attention to it. And here you've got these divided cities, and you have to learn, you're taught from a very young age how to recognize the gait or the architecture or the facial expressions or the clothing styles of the other. And you have to just pretend they're not there. And I mean, it also kind of applies to the whole, like, it's like the homeless people, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact. Um, and, dealing with unhoused populations and by ignoring them. And, um, but I think it really applies now in our situation, where the only way to get through is to just pretend that your coworkers you don't agree with politically, that it's just a disagreement and not your coworkers who um, actively wish ill upon people you care about. Um, people who want to deprive other people of human rights, and presumably they and I've actually witnessed this, working with people I had very strong agreements with, and if I would make some sort of vague but true response, they would interpret it to mean, not they didn't know me, and so they didn't know what I really thought, and so, they'd say, "Man, what do you think about this election?" And I'm just like, "I just want it to be over." And they would take that to mean everything I said. They interpreted it, they twisted it to where I was on their side, and I was just like, "Oh god, I can't get out of here fast enough." Um, but it's yeah, I just and I don't wanna give much of the story away, but it's so all of these things are involved because this woman was apparently killed in one city and dumped in the other city. And how did this happen? How did they get, yeah, it's like, and they're looking at security cameras, and this inspector actually has to go get special permission to go to the other city, even though he's already there. But anyway, um, it's a fascinating read, and yeah, it's so far it's the only thing I've read by him except for I think a short story, and I can't remember which one now, but if his other work is similarly fascinating, I definitely look forward to reading more. And okay, so I think it is definitely time for a sprint. So let me see if I can find the Pomodoro Kitty. Um, okay, here we have our Pomodoro Kitty. And let's see, should I put a question? I am just going to say, what are you reading or working on? If you care to share. But we'll set the timer for 25 minutes and let my voice recover a little bit. And yeah, I might have to get up and go stretch or something. Yeah, because my back is not great right now. And go get some more water or something. But I will be back. And yeah, let me know in the chat what you are working on, if you're reading, even, it doesn't have to be work. It can be something relaxing, playing a game, whatever. Um, but if you'd like to share, go ahead and tell me what you are working on. I will probably be listening to When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Peach Pie from middle grade March. Okay, we are back. So let's see. All right, we've had some people hop into the comments. And let's see. So everyone, yeah, just let me know how you did, what all you worked on or read. And let's see. So we've got, is it Gia or am I saying that right? So welcome. Good to see you here. And then Swank is here. So happy Panda Day. Happy Artichoke Day. I'm not actually a fan of artichokes, but yeah, I try, and I think they're okay. I won't like pick them out or pick them off my pizza or anything, but they're okay. But pandas, I like pandas. Pandas are cool. Pandas are awesome. Somebody somewhere, probably in China, has a job cuddling pandas. I'm jealous. And yeah, so I said hello, and I could swear I typed an exclamation mark, but it didn't show up. Sorry. And Nicole is here from Noteworthy Fiction. Welcome, welcome. And so yeah, and there the exclamation mark showed up. Let's see. So Nicole is reading XX by Ryan Hughes. Not familiar with that one. I hope you're enjoying it. And Swank is 81% into Anne of Green Gables. It's been a long time. I've only read it the once, but I really enjoyed that. I was expecting it to be more dated, and I was really pleasantly surprised at just how light and wonderful yet deep it was. So I was really pleased with that. I hope you're enjoying it. And let's see. Nicole says, "Hey, Swank, didn't realize you were reading Anne. Nice." Yeah. And I listened to another chapter or so of When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Peach Pie, which is a book about a family that decides to spend a month doing a peach pie food truck and seeing the country. And yeah, it doesn't quite go as they planned. And Swink says, "Hi, Nicole." Okay. Nicole says, "Yum, peach pie." Yeah, I like peach pie. I especially liked the old-fashioned Hostess, those like handheld pies with sort of that sugar icing on the outside. I like the peach and the apple. Yeah, those were really good. But now, of course, then they said, "Oh, no trans fats, no trans fats," and so all the Hostess yummy stuff. Like I really love the chocolate cupcakes and like ding dongs and ho hos. Yeah, no, they all taste really bland now. Well, and they actually tasted okay until they got bought out because they went bankrupt or something. And now they just it's like, wow, this is pie. This is chocolate. This doesn't taste right. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, peach cobbler. Oh gosh, I have not had peach cobbler in forever. Mm. I wish I were a better baker. I'm not a very good baker. I hate measuring things. I mean, if I set my mind to it, it's like I'm going to bake something, I will measure things so that it turns out okay. But yeah, I'm more of a cook, and I just like toss things in and hope for the best. That doesn't work with baking. They all taste like plastic now. Yes, Nicole, they do. It's awful. I won't get Hostess. Now the Little Debbie cakes, a lot of those are still good, but but they're also, fat bombs. So my doctor doesn't want me eating those, I'm sure. Hostess is filing bankruptcy again. Oh my gosh. Hope someone buys them again so it keeps going. Well, only if they like go back to the original recipes, or at least the not so recent recipes. That would be better. Oh. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I think I am on. So I did week 8, and now we're up to week 9, I think. So book report for week 9 of 2025. So, there's quite a few in this week. And let's see. Got screens over here, I believe. I think I got everything up on the everything pulled up over here. So let me just try that. Okay, and I want to go over here to A Company of Swans. That, and let's see. Swank says my fave are the orange cupcakes, and ho-hos. Yeah. I like the chocolate cupcakes, and I think they made zingers, right? I really like chocolate zingers and ho-hos. Ho-hos were awesome. One time at church camp, we ended up making ho-ho pizza, which I don't know. It was a thing. It was different. I mean, you can't go wrong with ho-hos. But okay. So, A Company of Swans. I read this for the Cozy Readers Book Club. They do zingers. Ah, yes. Okay. I wonder if those survived the recipe changes. And this was from 1985. I don't know. It felt older to me, but and it didn't really feel that cozy to me. It's basically this young girl. She's not that young. She's a teenager, late teens, I believe. I want to say 18 or 19. And she is her family is very controlling. I guess her mother is dead, and her father is a professor at Oxford, and I think it's Oxford, maybe it's Cambridge. Anyway, one of those places. And everything is really boring. The only creative outlet that they will allow her is dance lessons. So she's been taking ballet all these years, and then a visiting this guy who runs a Russian ballet company is visiting and the class, and he's like, oh, I want her, and he picks a few people to be in this traveling dance troupe, corps de ballet, and they're going to go to Brazil, and they're going to do a tour of the Amazon. And I'm trying to think what the setting was. Early 20th century, I'm wanting to say. And yeah, it's 1985, so things are a little weird. Everything, all romance in the 80s was just really strange. Yeah, and I'm probably still experiencing some emotional trauma from it. Um, and as an adult learning, oh, that's really not how things are supposed to work. But they really screwed us up with media in the 80s. So I'm very glad I did not read this in 1985. But anyway, she goes to Amazon, and and there's this arranged marriage for her in England, um, and then there's all this other family stuff going on. And anyway, she gets to Brazil, and she finds this Englishman, um, who's been living there for a very long time, and and they fall in love, and much wackiness ensues, and it's it was a good read. It was better than most of the romances. What I find really interesting is that this was actually written as and marketed in the 80s as an adult romance, not YA. And they for the modern market, because it's very low to no spice. I mean, the spice is suggestive dialogue. That's it. So it's for the modern market, it's marketed as YA. Um, she's a teenager, and even though she's like 19 and um sort of age here in the US. In England, she wouldn't have been of age until 21, and I don't know when 18 became the age of majority here, but maybe even in the US, she would have still been considered a minor. But anyway, there's these machinations. Her family, they figure out that she ran off with the ballet, and and so they're um, they're trying to find her and bring her back. And like I said, much wackiness ensues. It was pretty fun. But yeah, there was some strange stuff in there that I'm just like, yeah, it was the 80s. What do you expect? Um, and then let's see. Next is in-depth market research interviews with dead people, Volvo. And I don't know, the title sold me. I was just looking for something kind of short and sweet, and this, I forget how long this is, maybe an hour or something like that. And okay, so Alison Esbach, I think I don't know about the pronunciation there. But she wrote The Wedding People, which was really popular. I've heard a lot of really good buzz about it, and I do have that on my want to read list. I don't have a copy of it, but I do intend to read that sometime soon. And this is let's see, in-depth market research interviews with dead people. It's what it says on the tin. It's basically this market researcher interviewing this deceased woman about her decision to buy a Volvo. And of course, it's not about her decision to buy a Volvo. It's about how she died. Well, actually, is it? It's not even so much about that, but it's about her kind of experiencing sort of I don't know. And I don't want to spoil it. It is very short, so I don't want to spoil it, but her car dies basically, and her um search for a new car, and why, and how, some of the other things she looks at besides the Volvo, and her adventures in doing that. And um it was really interesting. I don't know, I only gave it 3 stars, huh? I don't know. I just, looking back, I might have to change that, because looking back at it, it was really, really creative. Just a really creative exercise in Okay, so what is an in-depth market research interview about? Um, because you're trying to get at people's motivations and, it's like, why did you buy this Volvo? Why did you choose to buy this Volvo instead of, you know, and kind of looking at what in a person's psyche really drives their decision making. So, I don't know. If you have access to it, it's worth a listen. It's quick, um, and you can make up your own mind. There are, I think, 2 more of these, so I'll probably listen to those as well. And then here's another. I was looking, because for Chaos Weekend, in the Get a Clue Readathon, I had, like, I clicked on a whole bunch of short things, and I didn't get to read all of them, but some of them I'm like, "Oh, hey, um, let's read this." And this, I mean, I gave it 3 stars. Um, and this is on me. I should know better than to read a prequel in a series that I'm completely unfamiliar with. It is very D&D 5e, because there are artificers, and is that how you say that word? I've never actually heard it pronounced, except by people who go, "Is that how you say that word?" Because mm, because we read it in the manual or the on the website. It is okay. So this was published in an anthology, and it is Jancy is a secondary character in the Gnome Saga series. Um, so I don't know what the Gnome Saga series is, and this didn't really interest me enough in the world and the characters and everything. I'm just like, sounds like somebody's D&D campaign. And I don't know. It might be good. It might be fun, but and maybe I'll check it out someday, but it's not a top priority. But this Jancy she's working as a barmaid, but apparently she's an assassin or something, or um, I don't know, keeps her true profession a secret. I don't know, Jancy the Quick. So she's kind of like a ninja type character, and apparently, poised to respond whenever injustice is found. So justice is her thing, and she overhears a story of some injustice while she's working as a barmaid, and then she goes off to find it and fight it. And yeah, it's an interesting little story. I didn't feel really engaged with it, and that's my fault because I'm not familiar with the series or the characters. Okay, so now, yes, I went on, like I said, I've been on an Ursula Vernon T. Kingfisher jag, and yeah, I think new favorite author. Um, so this is Harriet the Invincible. This is the first in the Hamster Princess series by Ursula Vernon. So it's a Sleeping Beauty, but kind of twisted around, and of course, the princess is a hamster. They're all hamsters. I think they're all hamsters, maybe. Harriet Hamsterbone is our princess, and of course, they try to curse her, and the curse doesn't really work out, because she's like, oh wait, if the curse, if I'm cursed to die at age 12, then I've got 12 years of invincibility. I can do anything. So she goes off on all these adventures, killing monsters and things like that. So, yeah. And then she turns 12 and much wackiness ensues. And, this is the first in a series, so obviously she survives it. But it's really fun and adorable, and I loved it. Yeah, this is a kid's book, but I really don't care. So if you're doing middle grade March, I highly recommend this. And this one, I think I would count this for travel. But I read this actually for the royalty prompt for Mardi Gras Readathon. And let's see. But yeah, I will be reading further in the Hamster Princess series. And oh, let's skip over to What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead. And, that one I kind of struggled with because um, it was myco horror, fungi. Ah, and apparently Alex, our sworn soldier, um, has similar issues with fungi, especially now after the the activities of the first book. And this is at Alex Easton's home village, and there's, well, not home village, but there's a lodge, a hunting lodge kind of place. And so Alex and I forget who all. Anyway, Alex and Angus are going to this lodge and get it ready. They're hosting Miss Potter from the first book, who is searching for a specific kind of mushroom. And it's like, okay. But they get there and everything is weird. And then people are dying under strange circumstances, and much wackiness ensues. And yeah, yeah. So big Kingfisher fan. I think I'm gonna have to read everything she has written before I will be satisfied. And then next up, The Lamb Will Slaughter the Lion by Margaret Killjoy. And this is another author that I look forward to exploring their work. So this takes place in a squatter village in Iowa, Freedom, Iowa, and these squatters have built this nice little utopia. And Danielle Kane comes in, and she's kind of a vagabond character. And anyway, but her friend was in Denver. When she was in Denver, her friend who had been at Freedom, Iowa, comes in and eventually, before long, kills himself. And so she's like, and she knows it has something to do with this town. So she goes there, and first, the first thing she notices is there are these weird living corpses, birds with, their rib cages open, but they're still alive. And yeah, it's creepy. And then, she starts kind of settling, meets some of the people in the town, and they kind of get her used to what's going on. And then and then Ulixi, I guess that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, this let's see, the spirit, a blood red 3-antlered deer shows up and kills somebody in the village. And they're like, yeah, we kind of saw that coming. And she's like, wait, what? And of course, then, has to get to the bottom of this and why. So yeah, they called this basically demon deer to be their protector. And then the deer decided they needed protection from some of their own people. So yeah, so it was a fun little puzzle to figure out what was going on and what to do and all that. It was really intriguing, and apparently it's the first in a series, so I'll have to find the next book. Also, a friend has recommended to me something by this author. It's Escape from Incel Island, which just sounds absolutely amazing. So again, this is another author whose work I look forward to exploring. And then The Moonstone, and this was a reread for well, I was going to read it for Read the Classics and also for the mystery book club I belong to locally. And oh, I read it long ago. I don't know, back in the 90s, I think. I was not impressed. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's groundbreaking detective fiction, blah blah blah. I kind of don't care. I kind of hated this book. I thought, okay, on this read, I did I was better able to recognize a lot of the humor in at least the first section is actually pretty entertaining. Um I mean, well, the colonialism is just really awful, but the and so it takes a little bit of, okay, yeah, England was like that. But because this was written in the 19th century, and um yeah, that's just how it was, and that's, yeah, what they were used to. So that was a little hard to stomach, but the voice, because it does go through different, it's epistolary and it goes through various perspectives, which is an interesting, um, definitely an interesting technique that has been used a lot since in detective fiction, and so yay for that. And this voice in the very first big section is actually really entertaining, and the sense of humor is pretty good. And I caught more of that this time around, but the the rest of it is just a slog and doesn't make much sense. And so, yeah, I'm not thrilled. Um, but I'm glad to have reread it and confirmed a lot of, yeah, you were right. That was pretty awful. At least parts of it. And uh yeah, pacing was not modern pacing. Which, I mean, you can't expect that, but dang, it was a slog. And yeah, I think I gave it pretty much the same rating as before. I'll have to look up. I think I gave it 2 stars this time, and, if I recall correctly, back in the 90s, it would have been like a 2-star read. Of course, in the 90s, I was not on Goodreads because Goodreads didn't exist, but there you go. I read that, and I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I actually found some things to really enjoy about it this time around. Um, Even though it still remained a 2-star book. And let's see. And I do have more water. Yeah. So yeah, be sure to stay hydrated, folks. But I've got my water, but my voice is really feeling it. But I do think if we do another sprint now, that um that I'll be able to do that. Let's see. Stop that and then go over here to Pomodoro Kitty. But yeah, let's see. Don't see any new comments. But yeah, and anytime, just hop into the chat if you see, if there's something you want to comment on, or if you agree or disagree. I saw somebody is like, man, what feasts at night, this is so boring, nothing's happening. And I'm like, are we reading the same book? What? That's not what I remember. But I will get our Pomodoro Kitty up here, and let's see. Oh, sprinting, and just, yeah, let me know what you're reading or what you're working on. Okay, there we go. And we are back. So, how did everybody do? I got a little bit farther in the peach pie or the peach pie food truck story, and yeah, things are not going well for the peach pie folks. Let's see. See if anyone is still hanging around. Let's see, I think another live stream started at 4. It's 4, a little after 4 my time here. So I don't know if I have anyone here still. But we'll go on to week 10, and I think I'm going to call it after discussing week 10. And yeah, my spine is not real happy right now. So gonna do that and do one last sprint and then chat just a little bit after that and call it a day. So let's see. Stop that and get my week 10 screens up. And actually, I'm going to start by sharing Lori's page over at Books, Ink, and Paper. This is her YouTube channel. And she and Kat at Kat's Novel Adventures co-hosted the Mardi Gras Readathon. And now the interesting thing about these first 2 books for week 10 is, so we're kicking off March here. And so the first 2 books here were from Mardi Gras Readathon, also March Mystery Madness, and Middle Grade March. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, first I'm going to talk about Mardi Gras Readathon, and just kind of let you know. First I'll go over what I had already read from Mardi Gras Readathon, because there were 9 prompts, I think, and I ended up reading 8. No, there were more than 9 prompts. Oh, yeah, there were 9 prompts and the group read. And the only thing I didn't do was finish the group read. But that's Bio Book Thief by Ellen Byron. So got to finish that up and get it back to the library. But so the first book, and I've already talked a little bit about The Railway Children, which the prompt for that was read a book about a crew or a group of friends. And then Quill Soup, I've already talked about that, and that was read a book related to or about food. And that was also for Folklore February, which Kat's Novel Adventures was doing. She hosted that. And then Bryony and Roses that I talked about earlier tonight, and that was for read a book set in France. And that might be just a little bit of a stretch because I don't think it ever actually stated that it was set in France, but the original was set in France. It's sort of a little fantasy, the mansion, the beast's estate. It was in sort of a magical part of France, sort of like Diagon Alley or something like that, or Brigadoon in Scotland. And then Black Cake was also for Mardi Gras Readathon. That was read a book about cake or with cake in the title. And so that met both of those criteria. And then Harriet the Invincible that I talked about earlier was read a book about royalty. Princess Hamster, yay. And so now we are going on to, I listened to the second and third of the Viva Durant audiobooks. And so here is Viva Durant and The Madness of Madame Bouchard. And so these are all set in New Orleans. I don't know if there will be more or if it's just this trilogy, but Viva Durant is, I think she's 16. And anyway, she lives in California, I believe. But anyway, she spends her holidays visiting her gram in New Orleans. And this one actually did triple duty on the prompts. It's read a book set on the Gulf Coast, read a book that centers around music, and read a book set in New Orleans. So New Orleans is on the Gulf Coast. So, this worked for all three of those. And it's both of these have to do with music because Viva Durant is she's a really big fan of jazz and how she remembers things. Her gram is training her to be a detective and take over the family business, or at least join the family business. And part of how she remembers things, when she gets clues, she makes them into like a little song. And so and there are little musical interludes, and she sings this song. Bonnie Turpin is the narrator for these, and she does a great job with them. And you've got, and so the author of these is Ashley Saint Armand, and they're a lot of fun. In this, she gets to New Orleans for Thanksgiving break, and her gram has a case for her to help out with, and that's she's been hired by Madame Bouchard to figure out why, is somebody trying to sabotage her business? They've been having all sorts of food poisoning outbreaks, and that have been traced back to her restaurant, and so she needs them to investigate and find out what's going on. And because business is not going well, and she had to shut down, and the health department shut her down until they can figure out and solve the problem. And so Viva and her friend, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, she has a friend that sort of, at first she finds him really annoying, but then it's like, oh, hey, you could be useful. But they are friends. They get to be pretty good friends. And they set about investigating. And okay, so my only real complaint with these stories, and it shouldn't be, because I have to recognize these are middle grade stories, and the point is to teach a lesson to middle grade readers. And the lesson being, don't jump to conclusions all the freaking time, because Viva does that a lot, and her friend does that not quite as much, but yeah, they're both really good at jumping to conclusions and getting the wrong end of the stick. And so the secondhand embarrassment is, there's a lot of cringe there. And I get that. Yeah, I'm not the audience. This is supposed to show middle grade readers what happens when you jump to conclusions. So, and that happens a lot in both of these. And let's see, the third story, the second one I read here, Viva Durant and the Mystery at the Masquerade Ball. So there's this big coming out party associated with Mardi Gras, and Reese is her friend's name. And anyway, there we go. But so she's back in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and and she and her cousin are both going to be coming out at the Mardi Gras ball. They're debutantes, and I don't think they actually talk about it, refer to it as coming out. And that might be more of a New York or a London thing. But anyway, they're debutantes, and so she's at this big fancy ball. So the prompt for this is read a book about a ball or an elegant event. And so during the ball, well, there's all sorts of weird hinky stuff going on, and then during the ball, there's like a blackout, and then there's more hinky stuff that happens, and there's like a casino involved, um, and Viva and Reese jump to lots and lots of conclusions that aren't quite right. Some of them are kind of right, but yeah, but I think it does do a good job of kind of teaching. Okay, you've got facts, so now how do these facts make sense together? Um, and just kind of looking at facts and observations from different angles and trying to fit them together like a puzzle and trying to make them make sense. And if I had a gripe about this one, it's that they didn't really do that very much. They basically showed up and made a bunch of wild accusations based on their erroneous conclusions, and everyone had to explain to them, nope, not right. This is what's going on. But then there was more after that, that kind of took care of, there was more to the story that even the grown-ups didn't really understand. So, yeah, it's a different thing. And the way this one ended, it could be wrapping up the trilogy, and that's all we get. This came out last year, and it doesn't look like they come out like every one a year. So maybe it's also set up that it could continue on. So with Viva Durant returning to New Orleans for future adventures. So I kind of hope that's going to be. I mean, they're middle grade. They're fun. Yeah, I'm not the audience, but they're enjoyable. And I mean, I love a good mystery. And so both of these count for March Mystery Madness, which, let's see, put this up here. Yeah, and it's a YouTube thing, but it's also, they've got a Discord and a Twitter and an Instagram and a Goodreads group and all this stuff. But yeah. But if you just Google, or not Google, if you go to YouTube and search for March Mystery Madness 2025, you'll get lots and lots of videos, because there are a lot of co-hosts for this, and with TBRs and piles of possibilities and all sorts of recommendations and things. Now, the thing with March Mystery Madness this year is that it is the 10th anniversary, and they're going on a decades theme. So you'd choose, and I mean, you can just read mysteries and call it good. But if you want to follow the theme, then there's 3 different ways, and I forget exactly how the other ways work. But I am doing the read a set number of books. I'm aiming for 10. Don't know if that'll happen, but trying to read as many books as possible that were published in the 2020s. So it's not even a full decade, but I do have a lot of those on my list. And so these 2 both count for that. They were published in, I know this one was published in 2024. I think the other one was 2022 or something like that. I can go look. It was 2021, but it's still in the 2020s decade. So I've got other books on my list. And yeah, and technically week 11 is not over yet. So I'm going to save week 11's book report for later, and do that. But yeah, I've got several. Did I read any? Yeah, I read a few this past week that count. But basically mystery published in the 2020s, and both of these count for that, and they also count for middle grade March, and they've got their own channel now, and the hosts kind of swap out a little bit, but you can go here and look at their announcements. I missed the cozy reading night last night. I meant to go, but I was just exhausted. So I didn't. So I missed out on that. But they have. I think it's every Wednesday. They have a chat, and I can't remember. I don't think it's this coming Wednesday, but I think it's the Wednesday after that. I could have my dates mixed up. But anyway, there's one Wednesday that they're going to be discussing the group read or reads. So I finished The Secret Garden, and then I'll be reading The Moon Garden, which is sort of a reimagining of The Secret Garden. I think it's set on the moon or in space or something. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it yet. But that's the group read. And I'll talk a little bit more about The Secret Garden next time. And but yeah, I'm not, I don't have kids. I don't, my job doesn't involve kids. And so I'm not really a middle grade reader, but this, for March, middle grade March, it's just a fun change of pace. And, every now and then, even in other months, I'll need something short and quick, and I can usually find a middle grade book that's, kind of nice and what I'm looking for. It's a really, it's a nice break from a bunch of tomes about politics, which, but anyway. But yeah, middle grade March is still going on. March Mystery Madness is still going on. So yeah, I encourage you to go check those out and see if you want to participate. It's not too late. And then, so the last book I'm going to talk about here is Word Slut by Amanda Montell. And I also read Cultish a while back by the same author. I liked this better than Cultish. Cultish I did really like, but it was kind of all over the place in some ways, which was an odd reading experience. And this is also kind of all over the place. So the subtitle is A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language. And I guess my gripe here is that it's not really much of a guidebook. It does give a lot of information and a lot of etymology talk. I love that. And so, yeah, I gave it 5 stars because I'm just like, yay, etymology. I love looking at the history of language, and this talks, some of it I already knew about, how the word, gentleman and, sir and madam and things like that, how they kind of evolved separately, and also how some languages have, gendered nouns, and yeah, and some of these languages I was not at all familiar with, so I loved learning new stuff there. And there is a language that does not have any gendered gendered pronouns or anything. It's like, ooh. And it does talk about the development of pronouns and how different languages do things. And this is my wheelhouse. I love this kind of stuff. Even though, I'm not a professional linguist or anything, I love this stuff. So, if that is your jam, I highly recommend this. Um, I have heard criticisms that it gets a little repetitive at times, but I'm like, whatever. I'm good. I'm here for it. It's all good. Um, so that takes me through week 10 of 2025. And yeah, I was hoping to do week 11, but yeah, I'm still working on things that I might actually get finished. And so week 11 doesn't finish until later tonight. So, um, yeah, so yeah, I'd love to hear anyone's comments. Um, so Brian says, "Is it enough to just watch Rob words?" I do highly recommend that too. Let's see. How Germanic is English? But yeah, here is the Rob Words channel. Lots of fascinating stuff here. Um, and yeah, I I should watch more of these. But yeah, anytime I watch these, I'm like, oh, I always learn something, and these are great. But no, Amanda Montella is great too. Um, let's see. I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go. And yeah, and if anyone wants to chat about anything we've been talking about, or what they're reading, or what they're working on, um, but yeah, I think I will do one last sprint and see if I can listen to. I probably, I won't definitely won't get finished with my peach pie book, but listen to some more of that and see you back here. Let's see, where did my kitty go? There is my kitty. And away we go. See you in a bit. And we're back. So how'd everybody do? Did you make some good progress on your reading or whatever project or that you're working on, or just whatever you're doing to relax and have fun? I let's see where. Oh, we're at the top of the hour. Well, just 1 minute past the top of the hour, and I got some more listening done on When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Peach Pie, and yeah, it's pretty good. I have some quibbles, but um, let's see. And this is going to be for the travel one of middle grade March, the travel prompt. Swink says I'm 96% in my book, Anne of Green Gables, right? Yeah. And so still enjoying it, or well, I hope you were enjoying it earlier. But yeah, that's a good one. I have not read any farther in that series, though. I need to do that. And Prince Edward Island sounds like just such a lovely place. I should visit sometime. But yeah, the family in the Peach Pie book. Well, their last name is Peach, and so that's kind of how they decided to make and sell peach pies. But, yeah, they're encountering some obstacles. Yes, it is a good book, says Swink, but just cried at the death. Yeah, there's crying. There's crying. Yeah, it's not a simplistic story at all. I know it's supposed to be a children's book, but I thought it was nicely complex and dealt with a lot of things. And yeah, and Anne is such a drama queen, but so relatable at the same time. And yeah, there's stuff in the Peach Pie book. It's like, okay, you just decided to buy this food truck and go around the country. And I'm like, do you have permits? Did you like, check out how to deal with the taxes and stuff? And yeah, their dad, it's like, and one of the themes throughout the story is grief. Yeah. And so, it's sort of the meat of the story is the family kind of coming back together after, a couple years after the mother has died. And the father has just been kind of off in his own world, in academia and working on all that stuff. And so the teenage daughter is basically having to raise her little brothers. And yeah, so I'm guessing that something's going to happen with the family, that the dad didn't get permits and didn't. Yeah, he was just kind of, this is, although he did say that he took a food truck management course. So I'm hoping that that's just background stuff that they don't want to bother the reader with, maybe. So it says, I read The Secret Garden last week, first time. such a good story and wonderful character arcs. Yes, I agree. It was a reread for me, but it had been so long. I think I must have been in elementary school when I read it the first time, maybe middle school. I don't know. I was really young. And so, it's so long ago that a lot of it I just had forgotten. But I did there were scenes that really stuck out to me that I remembered, and then when they happened in the reread, I was like, "Oh, yes, that's that scene." And um but yeah, it's just a neat story. And at first it's like, "Oh, wow, all this colonialism is really unsettling." But that's just kind of how it was. And there's so much um and of course I distinctly remember as a child going, these children are brats. I don't like them. Yeah, it was like, why are you reading about this? but but yeah, definitely character arcs. Uh and I probably should have identified with Mary Lennox more than I did at the time. But looking back on things, but yeah, it was, and yeah, it was somebody, I can't remember if it was you, or somebody else in the other, sprints, but talking about, how it kinda was similar to Heidi. And yeah, and I think that it's an interesting thing, this concept of, and it kind of introduced the whole positive thinking thing. But, some of that is actually true, and in this case, there wasn't anything really wrong. All they really needed was to, act like kids, and and um, have a normal, healthy environment, and not be, constantly worried about dying. Um, and you saw some of that with the adults going, "Oh, really? You thought that?" And um, because they had no idea what was going on in children's heads. Oh, okay. I've never seen the movie. Yeah, there's a lot of books that have been made into movies, and, especially like children's books. But my parents were not movie people. So, if something, Disney made a movie or something, yeah, maybe a couple times they would take us, well, mom would take me to go watch the movies, because I don't know, I was probably more interested than my brother. But yeah, I do remember my mom taking me to see 9 to 5, taking me and a couple of my school friends, and that was in, when did it come out? 1980? So yeah. So we saw that in the cinema. and And I remember mom noticing that we were probably a little young for it, but she really liked the sort of feminist message, so she was cool with it. Yeah. Um, yeah, my dad, anytime my dad tries to watch a movie, he just falls asleep. So yeah, I didn't get to watch a lot of kids, and we didn't have HBO. I mean, HBO didn't exist for most of my childhood, and then my parents were like, "No." Every once in a while, I'd be over at a friend's house and they'd have movies on HBO. I was like, "Oh." But I remember one time watching, I was at a friend's house and we watched Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And I remember in like middle school, and uh, my friend's mom was there, and she's like, "So, does your mom know what you're watching? Or, does your mom know you're over here watching movies?" And it's like, "Oh yeah." "Does she know what you're watching?" I'm like, "I don't know." She didn't. Yeah. And so he says, especially the one with Shirley Temple, also her in The Little Princess. I have not read The Little Princess yet, and I'm not sure I've ever seen an entire Shirley Temple film. I've seen like excerpts, um, dancing excerpts usually. So yeah, that's part of my cinematic background that is severely lacking. Um, and I should read The Little Princess. I don't have that, I don't think, but I do. Somebody a while back gave me a copy of um, Little Lord Fauntleroy. So actually, that's what I have on my middle grade March list for the author with three names. Although the Peach Pie author has three names. It's Aaron Soderbergh Downing. So that would count for that. So it says here in Mesquite, Texas, they wouldn't let them put the word whorehouse on the key. Oh my gosh. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah. I mean, I lived in the Ozarks long enough that, yeah, I know how that goes. I wonder if they did it. I grew up in more central Missouri, and I'm trying to remember if they did or if they even showed it. I mean, we had one movie house, and for the long time it was just the one theater, and then they added Cinema 2 and Cinema 3. Um, they like redid the balcony to make its own cinema. Um, very very small, and then the other one was around the corner, and it was also a very small little cinema. So after it had played, I remember The Best Little in Texas as a fun musical. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think people get a little too worked up about stuff that kids are exposed to. I mean, I was more I would say the one thing that I remember accidentally watching that really kinda traumatized me was, my mom was visiting some friends, and it's like, "Oh, go watch TV with the daughter," and the daughter was considerably older than I was. I was in, like, 3rd grade, and the daughter was a teenager, and so, "Oh, go watch TV with her." She was watching a miniseries about the Holocaust, and I went in there, just there's a scene with this guy with his tongue cut out, and I'm like, I was seriously traumatized. That was not a fun musical. Um, and and people get all worked up about other stuff, and it's like, and this the best little Texas movie. It I mean, it wasn't. I think it was probably pretty PG, as far as what was shown and stuff. I don't maybe PG-13, I don't know, but it wasn't a big deal. And yeah, so but yeah, I remember one time in Springfield, in Queen City of the Ozarks, um, they at the mall, the Battlefield Mall. Who has names of mall? Well, it was on Battlefield Road, and that's why it was named Battlefield Mall. Missouri's a strange place, and they had a limited express store, and the corporate office sends these window dressing props and stuff, and they have it's very corporate. They have to do what corporate says. And anyway, for this one window display, they had a bunch of just as props, not even, mannequins sporting clothes because they were naked, which is the problem. Um, but they had the uh just they had clothes displayed on mannequins, but then they had these classical, like ancient Roman statues, but they were unclothed. And so somebody got all up in arms and said, "This is too close to a school. You can't have naked sculpture. You can't have naked forms this close to an elementary school." And yeah, so they actually made them, um, I think they made them put clothes on the statues. It's like, Samothrace or something. I forget what they were, but Venus de Milo. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you people? Let's see. Swank says, I'm a big movie fan, as were my mom and dad. I have 3 college degrees in theater. Woo! And have worked in both live theater, film, TV, and webisodes. Awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I tried being a theater kid, but I have way too much anxiety, and um I was thinking, well, I was like, oh, I want to be an actress, and I did like IEs in college, or not college, in high school, the individual events, speech and debate tournaments. I always did the speech. I hated debate. Um, I just hated it. So I always did like the duet acting and I kicked butt at poetry reading. And I usually did something from T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. That was always fun. I did well at that. But yeah, improv, not my jam. And also, I did all right with like humorous interpretation and things like that. But there was a talent show when I was in high school that made up my mind. No, I'm never going to be an actress. Um, and I thought I was going to be a dancer and everything. And it's a good thing I did not go the dancer route, because it turns out my femurs are shaped wrong. And so all the dance classes I took were just grinding all of the cartilage to a pulp. Yeah. So it's a good thing I didn't major in dance or musical theater or anything like that. But yeah. So I tried to be a theater kid and failed. And loved her. So funny. Yeah. Very funny show. Go ahead, you can say the word. I know. I watch it, and maybe it's just, I'm not monetized, so I guess I can just say whatever the hell I want. But I know people, booktubers who are monetized. Like, I was talking about Word Slut. I know there are booktubers who can't say the title of the book, and they're just like, hold it up. Like, so yeah. And then the stuff that YouTube demonetizes is just nuts, and it's all of them are so yeah. Anyway, best little whorehouse in Texas. Yeah. Anyway, so where is it? It's 5:19 here in Colorado. So, and I should probably sign off for the evening. And wow, the sun is still out. And that's, daylight saving, which I hate daylight saving, just to be clear. I hate daylight saving. The solar system is not responsible for the fact that we're just crap at scheduling our lives. So we're figuring out that, oh, in the winter, it's limited sunlight. You just don't get much sunlight. That's it. Anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with me and chatting with me about books and movies and pies and let's see. So it's Artichoke Day and Panda Day, right? So go eat some artichokes if you like. If you don't like, don't. Or if you can find a panda to cuddle legally, don't like, jump into a zoo enclosure or anything. Um, but yeah, go cuddle a panda. And Swink says, "Thank you for the scripts. Yay!" Yeah. So yeah, I think this works out pretty well for me. It gives my voice a chance to recover, and maybe soon we'll figure out what is going on with my voice. But I don't know. Yeah, the current surmise is the current. They think it might be vocal cord dysfunction or laryngeal dysfunction, or I don't know. We don't know yet. But anyway, thank you, and until next time, happy reading, happy movie watching, happy panda cuddling, and happy artichoke eating, and if you can find a peach pie, celebrate Pie Day a little bit late. Bye.